Hello. Like with everything else, you have to have rules and guidelines for waterproofing. We believe there are 7 basic rules to a successful basement waterproofing project. Rule 1. You must have an expert on your project design team. This is a requirement of British standards. This should be a suitably experienced surveyor, not a manufacturer. Manufacturers and suppliers can only advise on their products, their systems. They can't put together all the products and systems which may be required to carry out a successful waterproofing project. The design, supply and installation should all be covered by one warranty, one company, one person. If there's any problems with the design or the installation, you need to have one person that you can turn to, and that person must sit on your design team right from the beginning. Rule 2. Waterproofing has to be from the damp-proof course down. Every part of a basement below the damp-proof course is likely to be affected by water. Do not listen to any assertions by geotechnical engineers that the water table is below the basement, therefore you can reduce the waterproofing. In all likelihood, basement leaks and damp will occur because of water filtering down against the basement rather than the water table coming up. You have to waterproof from the damp-proof course down. Rule 3. If you can, form a watertight structure. Build it out of reinforced concrete. If you have to build it out of ICF, which is insulated formwork, or concrete block filled with concrete, you are building a very porous, very high risk basement. If it's in the water table, it will leak. You have to have 2 forms of waterproofing to protect this type of structure. So rule 3, try and build it as watertight as possible. Rule number 4, always consider 2 forms of waterproofing. This again is a requirement of the British standards. You should always consider 2 forms of waterproofing if the consequence of a leak is unacceptable or the risk of a leak is high. If you're going to build out of insulated formwork or concrete block work with filler in the concrete blocks, then the risk is very high. If you're building a habitable basement or better storage, then the consequence of a leak is extremely unacceptable, and therefore you have to have 2 forms of waterproofing. Rule number 5, consider repairability and serviceability. This is critical. If you are going to be designing a basement without taking into account repairability, what happens when you get a leak? If you are going to wrap the outside of the basement with waterproofing and then bury it, how do you repair it? If you're going to build it out of concrete with additives in and then build walls with very expensive finishes and plant inside, how do you get to it to repair it? The only way to build a basement with repairability is with cavity drain membranes which are completely serviceable. Always consider repairability, always consider cavity drain membranes. Rule number 6, you must have the right relevant insurance. For design you need professional indemnity. For installation you need products insurance. What you don't need is a manufacturer's warranty. Manufacturer's warranties cover the materials, the supply of the materials. They do not cover the installation. Everyone knows, they know and we know, it isn't the materials that go wrong, it's always the installation. For relevant guarantees, you must have the right insurances. Rule number 7. Always ensure that the waterproofing specialist that you propose to use has had a long trading history. Always check that they are financially stable. Always check that they have lots of experience with hundreds of similar projects to the one you are proposing. Anything less than financial checks and due diligence could mean that you're putting your project and your client at risk. None of these rules should be controversial. They are just plain common sense. Any design not following this set of rules is likely to be inadequate and put everyone involved at risk of disruption, stress and possible financial loss. All of this can be avoided. Just call us, get us in from the beginning. Let us help you start the project on the right foot. Call MacLennan's design team.